We've all been there, haven't we? It's dark, we're alone at home at night when we hear a sound, a creak, possibly on the stairs, a slight banging noise. So your mind wanders. Could it be? No, surely not. But we all have incredible imaginations. That's part of being human. And I defy any of you watching to say you haven't wondered about ghosts at some point in your life, whether they really exist. Well, Shakespeare was the same. He used ghosts in his plays, especially his tragedies, and two of them in particular, Hamlet and Macbeth. Who's shaking for Shakespeare? Who's gasping in thin air for a ghost? Who wants to suck in the supernatural, video a vision, or ache for an apparition? Stay tuned, you're watching Schofield on Shakespeare. The very first scene of Hamlet is tense, dark, as a group of guards wonder whether a ghost is going to appear once more. Barnardo and Marcellus have seen a ghost on previous nights and have begged Horatio, known as an intelligent man and a friend of Hamlet's, to join them on their watch to see if this ghost returns once again. Horatio is sceptical. After all, how many of us believe in ghosts or the supernatural? And believes initially it is just their fantasy, their imaginations getting the best of them. It is late at night and the people of Denmark are feeling more uncertain about their lives, following the very recent dramatic death of their hero king and subsequent crowning of his brother, Claudius. Anyone could be forgiven for thinking they have seen strange sights on a dark, gloomy night. But just 30 lines into the play, the ghost enters, ominously wearing complete armour, with its head visible through the gap in the helmet. Marcellus, Barnardo and Horatio are terrified, too terrified to speak much. Their sentences are short and abrupt. Marcellus cries, "Peace, break thee off, look where it comes again," as the ghost creeps onto the stage. Notice the type of verb Marcellus uses, commands, imperative verbs, break and look. These order the others to stop talking, to stare at the ghost, and so show the urgency of his feelings and his fear. Something else disturbs the watching men, because not only is there a ghost in front of them, but also a ghost that looks startlingly and disturbingly familiar. Barnardo points out that the ghost looks like the king that's dead. Horatio takes a while to collect his thoughts, but after agreeing that the ghost looks like the previous king, describes his terror. "It harrows me with fear and wonder." The word harrows is still used nowadays, but in its adjective form, harrowing. Harrowing means extremely upsetting because of a connection with suffering, and so it is clear Horatio is undergoing deep internal pain and torment at this quite extraordinary sight. It soon becomes clear that the ghost is only interested in speaking to Prince Hamlet, the dead king's son. And so in Act 1, Scene 4, Hamlet is present when the ghost reappears. Like Horatio, he is terrified. He cries, "Angels and ministers of grace, defend us! Be thou a spirit of health or goblin damned! Bring with thee heirs from heaven or blast from hell! I will speak to thee." The reference to angels and ministers of grace, meaning messengers of God, show Hamlet's urgent desire to be protected from wickedness, and the exclamation mark shows his raised, confused voice. Notice Hamlet's repeated use of the word "or" in the next 3 lines of this speech. He is quite unsure what to make of this ghost, and whether it is a force for good or for evil, a friendly spirit or a hellish goblin. Nonetheless, Hamlet recognises the striking similarity between the ghost and his father, and his love and respect for his lost dad is shown in the passionate list of names, split up by commas, he gives him. "I'll call thee Hamlet, comma, king, comma, father, comma, royal Dane." The adjective royal implies a deference and loyalty to his deceased father that Macbeth had seemed to refuse to show to the new king, his uncle Claudius. And so, in spite of warnings from his friend Horatio that the ghost may tempt Hamlet to commit suicide, take him to a summit of the cliff, to lure him into jumping and losing his life, Hamlet does indeed follow the ghost. What he discovers torments him, enrages him, pushes him towards extremity. Once alone with Hamlet in Act 1, Scene 5, the ghost is keen to describe his terrible suffering. During the day, he has to give himself up to sulphurous and tormenting flames. In other words, his spirit, not his body, for of course he is dead, suffers appalling acidic burns from which it cannot escape until his murder has been avenged. For, just as Hamlet suspects, his father was killed unjustly, and the ghost reveals how it happened. He was sleeping in my orchard when a serpent stung me. Shakespeare uses a metaphor here to label a human being, Claudius, the new king, and Hamlet's uncle, a serpent, a snake, to show the ghost's disgust at the evil, underhand, sneaky way in which his death came about. Snakes are known as dangerous, venomous creatures who strike suddenly, often appearing quickly from undergrowth. This metaphor emphasises the unmanly way in which the murder took place. Claudius poured poison into his own brother King Hamlet's ears, using a small container with juice of cursed Hebenon. Hebenon was a deadly substance found in a plant, and it is clear it killed King Hamlet immediately. The ghost's language reveals his outrage at this underhand and evil act. He refers to the fatal liquid as a leprous distilment. In other words, a purified poison which causes the potentially fatal disease of leprosy, as moving through the natural gates and alleys of the body as swift as quicksilver. Bodies do not literally contain gates and alleys, and it seems as though the ghost is deliberately using these simple metaphors rather than more complex literal scientific terms such as arteries to highlight the horrifyingly quick movement of the poison through all parts of his body. Some of the ghost's outrage is saved for his former wife and queen, Hamlet's mother. He describes her as seeming virtuous, and in doing so deplores the way she seemed so worthy and honourable, yet married his brother so soon after his death. The ghost then talks sadly about the evil nature of sexual desire, of lust. It, though to a radiant angel linked, will sate itself in a celestial bed and prey on garbage. In other words, the greedy need for sexual gratification can become so compelling that it can settle for garbage, for rubbish, in a desperate attempt to be satisfied. So, to summarise, the ghost in Hamlet appears at a certain time every night and is seen by a number of characters: Horatio, Marcellus, Bernardo and Hamlet himself. Although crucially, Hamlet's mother is unable to see or hear her former husband Ghost when he appears later in the play in Act 3, Scene 4. The appearance of a ghost frightens all of the men, but has a message for and speaks to only one of them, Hamlet. The ghost was originally a human being of great importance, the king no less, and needs his son to revenge his cruel death in order to be released from his burning suffering and enter heaven. So in a way, the presence of a ghost reflects a personal tragedy, that of a son unnecessarily losing his beloved father, but a public one too. It has resulted in a country losing an excellent king, described by Horatio in Act 1, Scene 1, as valiant and esteemed, well respected. This contrasts sharply with the dramatic appearance of a ghost in another of Shakespeare's great tragedies, Macbeth. Macbeth, like Claudius in Hamlet, has murdered his way to become king. However, after becoming king, he still worries about the threats from other noble Scottish lords, especially Banquo and Macduff. He sends murderers on a mission to kill Banquo and his son Fleance, which is only partially successful. Banquo's throat is cut, but Fleance is escaped. During a lavish meal at the palace that same night, Macbeth sees something that terrifies him, pulls him in every direction, gives him living, public nightmares. Banquo's ghost. However, unlike in Hamlet, crucially Macbeth is the only person who is able to see this ghost, suggesting it is a ghost of his own personal conscience, perhaps. After a hearty start to the meal with plenty of formal toasts and cheery comments from Macbeth about playing the humble host, Banquo's ghost appears, sitting in Macbeth's place. Macbeth's shock is seen in his abrupt, startled, astonished questions. Where? Which of you have done this? Suggesting that it feels as though he may have been tricked, maybe a victim of a practical joke. However, he then addresses the ghost directly and unwittingly hints about his own involvement in his death. "Thou canst not say I did it. Never shake thy gory locks at me." Macbeth is quibbling here. Technically, of course, he was not the person to cut Banquo's throat, but he most certainly ordered the murderers to do so. Moreover, just as Marcellus uses imperatives to show his urgent desire for everyone to take notice of the ghost in Hamlet, so Macbeth uses the desperate imperative, "never shake," to indicate to the audience that this ghost is shaking its head in his direction, something that he finds incredibly disturbing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, unlike in Hamlet, when Horatio, Marcellus, Barnardo and Hamlet himself all see the ghost, although it will only speak to Hamlet, of course, only Macbeth can see the ghost in this scene. But he is not alone. He is surrounded by guests, important Scottish noblemen, his wife. Macbeth is hosting a celebratory banquet following his recent succession to the throne of Scotland, which some people are bound to be slightly suspicious about. Indeed, one nobleman, Macduff, has refused to attend. How he behaves is crucial. And so, when he starts shouting out questions and speaking to what everyone else thinks is simply thin air, his guests are astonished. The Scottish Lord Ross quickly says formally, "Gentlemen, rise, His Highness is not well." And so the appearance of a ghost on stage leads to what is perceived as erratic, strange behaviour from one important character and other people thinking he is suffering from some kind of mental illness. When the ghost disappears, Macbeth manages to calm down, whilst his wife desperately tries to reassure the other guests. Yet, the ghost quickly returns, leaving Macbeth to rant and rave once again. And his guests to wonder about the extraordinary behaviour of their new king. He roars, "What man dare? I dare. Approach thou like the rugged Russian bear, the armed rhinoceros, or the Hycran tiger. Take any shape but that of my firm nerves shall never tremble." Macbeth seems desperate to prove a point about his manliness, saying he is as brave as the bravest human being. He then uses three similes, comparisons with other things that use either like or as, to refer to terrifying large animals that wouldn't scare him. If the ghost looked like a huge bear, a rhinoceros with a sharp pointed horn, or an Eastern European tiger, Macbeth wouldn't even shake or tremble. But this is different. The appearance of Banquo's ghost, to Macbeth's eyes only, completely disarms him, causes him to lose his nerve publicly and embarrassingly in front of all his guests, threatens even his own future as king. One reason why Macbeth gets so worked up is he doesn't realise he is the only one who sees the ghosts. He marvels to Lady Macbeth and the other guests, "You make me strange, even to the disposition that I owe, when now I think you can behold such sights and keep the natural ruby of your cheeks, when mine is blanched with fear." Macbeth cannot believe that everyone else can keep so calm, that their cheeks can keep their natural, healthy, ruddy glow, whilst his face has gone white, blanched with fear. The banquet ends abruptly, with Lady Macbeth ordering the guests, in the rude, brutal imperative, "Go at once." The appearance of a ghost has led to the public humiliation of a king, and personal, appalling mental anguish for a once great man. The appearance of ghosts in Hamlet and Macbeth are key dramatic and powerful moments in both plays. The ghost in Hamlet is that of the previous king, tormented, passionate and eloquent when alone with his son, whereas the ghost in Macbeth is there to torment the current king. Unquestionably, it is successful, leaving the king's reputation and integrity in tatters.